fellow Ghanaians. Welcome to yet another edition of the My Turn program on Ghana Television. Tonight is the turn of the new patriotic party represented by the Director of Communications, Nana Akomea. The NPP is currently the largest opposition party in Ghana, a truly popular national organization. Their membership and support span the length and breadth of the country. The NPP's tradition of advocating and championing multi-party democracy in Ghana dates back to the United Gold Coast Convention UGCC, founded in 1947, with the primary aim of fighting for political independence from the British colonial administration. The NPP has some fundamental beliefs, which are the belief in development in freedom of a property-owning democracy. They also believe in freedom of the individual, of choice, of speech, and of enterprise. The new patriotic party symbol is the African elephant, and their colors are red, white, and blue. You can kindly send your messages on our various social media platforms. On WhatsApp, the number is 0277-294-388. WhatsApp number 0277-294-388. On Twitter, at My Turn on GTV. On Facebook, it is My Turn on GTV. You can also email us on myturn@gbcghana.com. I am your uncle, Emmanuel Edujafi. And let me quickly add that this particular program is also live on GTV Govern and Obono TV. Once again, welcome to My Turn on GTV, and now to the representative of the NPP, Nana Akomea. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Well, good evening, fellow Ghanaians. I am here this evening to tell you the good news about the new patriotic party. Our country, Ghana, today is in crisis. We are in crisis not because we do not know what to do to lift ourselves up. We are in crisis not because Ghanaians do not work hard. Ghanaians are the most hard-working people in the world. We are in crisis not because we don't know what to do. The big issues that confront us: jobs, the economy, agriculture, industry, the cedi, the value of the currency, the cost of living, education. We know what to do to be able to change our fortunes around. What has been lacking is the leadership that will combine the hard work of Ghanaians, that will combine the knowledge that Ghanaians have to turn this country around. And it is that critical issue of leadership that is so much needed today. It is that critical ingredient that the new patriotic party offers to Ghanaians in the name of the flag bearer of the party, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Nana Akufo-Addo will bring to service in this country an experience born out of over 40 years of public service. A man with a passion for excellence and for results. As a young man, newly qualified lawyer, cozy practice in Europe, he left all of that and came into this country in the 1970s so that he can be part of the effort of moving this country forward. As a young man in the 1970s, newly qualified, he put all the comforts aside and engaged himself in the fight and the resistance against military dictatorship in the 1970s. In the 1980s, when citizens of this country had had their properties seized after 2-3 minutes of trial, have had been committed into prison after 2-3 minutes of trial, Nana Akufo-Addo was in the forefront of fighting for justice for Ghanaians who had had their properties seized unfairly, who had been committed into prison unfairly. Nana Akufo-Addo, as a young man in the early 1980s, fought for these people, in many cases free of charge, and secured justice, secured the return of properties, and secured freedom for many, many, many Ghanaians in those very difficult and dangerous period of military dictatorship. In the 1990s, the middle 1990s, this country was faced with a very grave crisis with the introduction of the value-added tax in 1995 or thereabouts. Cost of living went through the roof. Ghanaians were crying for relief, for salvation. The VAT, or the value-added tax that had been brought, had been introduced at a rate of 17.5%. That rate was killing Ghanaians. It took Nana Akufo-Addo, with a small group of friends, who stood up against the government of the day and rallied the people of this country to protest the VAT rate of 17.5%. And these young men, group of friends led by Nana Akufo-Addo, were able to make their voices heard, were able to get the government at the time to listen, and Parliament had to be recalled to suspend the value-added tax at that time. When it came back, when it was reintroduced 3 years later, the rate was 12.5%. As we speak today, the rate of VAT is 17.5%. We can imagine if Nana Akufo-Addo and his friends had not stood up for Ghanaians, and the VAT rate of 17.5% had prevailed in 1995 or so, what would have been the rate of VAT, the rate of taxation of Ghanaians today? Nana Akufo-Addo entered Parliament in 1997. He served the people of the historic constituency of Ibuakwa for 12 years. The history of that parliament, the second parliament of the Fourth Republic, the history of that parliament cannot be written, cannot be complete without the sterling contribution of Nana Akufo-Addo in that period. When the NPP came into office in 2001, Nana Akufo-Addo was appointed the first Attorney General and Minister for Justice. One of the immediate things that he did, under the direction of the great leadership of President Kufuor, was to remove the criminal libel law. This was followed shortly by the setting up of the National Reconciliation Commission, which laid a firm foundation for this country to be reconciled after the turbulence of the military era. He also became the foreign minister of this country. In that period, under the direction of President Kufuor, Ghana became one of the best-known third world countries in the world. Ghana was invited to nearly all the meetings of the advanced economies in the world. Ghana was elected the presidency of the Africa Union and the ECOWAS on a few occasions. And Nana Akufo-Addo stood shoulder to shoulder with President Kufuor in executing Ghana's mandate in that period. Nana Akufo-Addo had the singular honor in that period of chairing the United Nations Security Council, which deliberated at that time on a crucial matter that had implications for world security. Nana Akufo-Addo became the flag bearer of the NPP in 2007 with an endorsement of about 48%. In 2010, he again became the flag bearer of the NPP with an endorsement of about 80%. And in 2014, he once again became the flag bearer of the NPP 3 times in a row, this time with a majority of about 94%. Being the flag bearer on 3 occasions means that he had sought for the presidency of this country on 2 occasions, in 2008 and also in 2012. Ghanaians, in our collective wisdom, did not give him the majority vote for him to lead this country. But this is the 3rd time. And we all know the position and the situation in which this country is today because of leadership. This is the time that this country should stretch forth its hands and give itself the opportunity of having Nana Akufo-Addo as its leader. We are in crisis. We need a man who is tried and tested with a track record of fighting to bring peace and justice to this country. The hour is here. The hour is near. And the man is available. December 7 is around the corner. And all of us are aware that we are making a judgment about our own welfare. And when you are making a judgment about yourself, you cannot afford to be partial. We must make this judgment with objectivity and with the best interest of ourselves, our country, and our children in mind. We can not do better than this time giving the leadership of this great country to Nana Akufo-Addo, so that for once we would have leadership that would exploit the enormous ability of Ghanaians, the enormous natural resources that we have to bear, to lift this country up. We are the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to gain independence. We are therefore Africa's firstborn. Our lot is to lead Africa. Our lot is not to be in crisis, where the living conditions of Ghanaians keep getting worse every day. All that we need to reclaim our birthright in Africa, to be the firstborn of Africa, to show leadership in Africa, all we need is a leader who would be able to deliver just that. And in Nana Akufo-Addo, after we've tried all the leaders, in Nana Akufo-Addo, we have a leader who is going to provide the transformational leadership to lead this country. Corruption is a big issue. The man himself is coming to the job with integrity. over 40 years of public service, there is not a whiff of corruption about him. And all that it takes to fight corruption, beyond the laws, is the leadership. Because we have all the laws anywhere in the world, we have them in Ghana. But the leadership that will make the laws work for our benefit, to fight corruption, that leadership is not there. Nana Addo has promised the people of this country that he is bringing personal integrity to the job of president. He is going to set up by law the office of the independent prosecutor, who will be independent of government and who would be able to deal with corruption in high and low places without fear or favor, because that person will be independent completely of government. Our economy is probably the biggest source of worry to Ghanaians. The cost of living is completely unbearable. The young people do not have the jobs. The value of our income keeps going down every day because our currency loses value all the time. We know what to do. The leadership to do it has been the problem. Nana Addo understands the problems, and he is committed upon his life to provide the leadership. The industries have to be set up. It is the industries that will provide the leeway for agriculture to grow. It is the industries that will cut down the imports that drain away our dollars and weaken our cedi. The exports that we need in order to add value to our products. All of that is known. Nana Addo is saying to Ghanaians, he would embark on an industrialization program in this country, which he has dubbed one district, one factory, that will begin to add value to our local resources, that will begin to add value to agriculture, to process the tomatoes, to process the pepper, so that we don't have to take dollars to import these same things, so that we can stabilize the income of farmers because they have an outlet, and so that we can save the current foreign exchange and stabilize our cedi and make our currency stable, make our income stable, make the cost of living stable. We have talked about agriculture. Irrigation is a major problem in this country. The Accra Plains, the vast Accra Plains, just a few kilometers from the mighty Volta River. And the Volta River flows endlessly into the sea. And just a few miles away, the Accra Plains are there, waiting for water to become the grain fields of this country. What is needed is just the leadership to put it together, to put the land and the water together. Nana Addo will provide that. The north of this country is a potential food basket for us. But they can only farm for a limited number of months because of water. Our brothers in Burkina Faso have shown the way. By investing in irrigation, they are able to farm all year round. We can do better in Ghana. Nana Akufo-Addo has promised us that he would embark on a massive irrigation plan, a massive irrigation program, to ensure that there's water available in the vast lands of the north of this country, so that farming can go on all year round. He has dubbed this program One Village, One Dam. He is going to work on the economy. He is going to build on the record of the NPP under President Kufuor. And he would be supported so ably by the dynamic Dr. Alhaji Bawumia, who, in this short period of 8 years or so, has shown that he has the diagnosis of the economy at his fingertips, and he knows what has to be done to turn this economy around. That partnership that we offer, Nana Akufo-Addo, committed leadership, Dr. Bawumia, technical expertise on the economy, the Ghanaian economy will change forever. The deficit that keep worrying us, that today has led us to go and seek solace at the IMF. The deficit will be dealt with. Inflation will be dealt with. The track record of the NPP is that in the 8 years when the NPP was in office, inflation was reduced from 40% to 18.3% in 8 years. And that interest rates were reduced from 50% to 25%. Going forward, we will do better under the leadership of Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. The golden age is upon this country. We are at the crossroads. We must choose to go forward. Let's give ourselves the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia on December 7, 2016. God bless you. God bless Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana Akomea, Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party, for appearing on our show for today. And we have some few messages coming through right here on our various social media platforms. Our first message is from Comfort Akofa Adai from Labadi. And she says that what specifically would you do to improve our country's infrastructure, especially our roads, railroads, bridges, sewage systems, and electrical grids? And also, what will you do to introduce minimal wasteful use of water in drought-stricken areas? And again, another message here says that what changes would you propose for our public transportation system to make it more attractive to people across the country? And what initiatives will you undertake to make the arts more accessible to a wider group of people, including the elderly, children, people living in rural areas, and low-income families? Emmanuel Asare from Achim Apedao. So, Nana, if you can address these concerns for us, and then we'll go on to ask other questions.
Thank you. Infrastructure is very important in this country. The roads, the harbors, the railways, the hospitals, the health infrastructure, and all of them. They are very important to move this country forward. When you look at the record of the NPP, and you look at the capital spending that we're spending in relation to infrastructure, it was extremely significant. It was so much that in 2008, then running mate John Mahama was forced to remark that the government had done so well in infrastructure, but every government did infrastructure, and that it was not necessary to compare the records. That showed that infrastructure was a major priority for the NPP. Going forward, infrastructure will be a priority. We would speed up the rate of providing infrastructure in this country. One of the major limitations that has not allowed us to provide the infrastructure that we need is the corruption that comes with the sole sourcing procurement. a recent investigation into sole sourcing, the infamous bus branding, it showed that the sole sourcing had led to an overage, an extra charge of more than 100%. That a job to brand the buses should not have cost more than 1.7 million Ghana cedis. It ended up costing 3.6 million Ghana cedis. That means an overage, an overpayment of 1.9 million Ghana cedis, an overage of more than 100%. If it's a small contract like branding buses, this country will suffer a loss of more than 100%. Then we can imagine some of these other contracts where sole sourcing had been engaged in. We have records of 6 classroom blocks being built by government at 3 times the cost of the same 6 classroom block being built by the private sector. So going by the procurement law and putting out infrastructure on tender, we'll be able to save so much for this country, and we'll be able to get infrastructure at a much faster rate with the same amount of money than we are doing now.
Okay, Nana, sorry to cut you, but we have countless number of messages coming through. So with your indulgence, we'd like to be very brief as much as possible with some of the questions and the messages that are coming through. Let me quickly read a little of the messages that, again, has come through. Courage Kakra Edu says, I congratulate GTV for this great program, but why is the NPP running away from the IEA evening encounter? Secondly, let Nana Akomea tell us what single initiative the NPP will put in place to solve unemployment in the country. And quickly, another one is from Master Yankee. He says, good evening to my mentor, Nana Akomea. He's such a good communicator. I am an NDC faithful, but believe Ghana must come first. But how? Let's know if Nana is committed to the unity we enjoy in this country, considering the image he has of not accepting criticisms. And Rexton Ikofi says, what specific steps will the NPP take to improve upon the terrible sanitation challenges this country is facing?